And now we're going to go to where we left off just a minute ago. Simplified Sellers Use Tax. Mr. Smallwood, this is first for you. So y'all have already kind of alluded to it. Trussville missing out on millions in online sales tax revenue due to SSUT. What specific actions would you take to resolve this issue locally? And I'm curious, y'all kind of hinted at it with Mayor Maddox working on this 6 to 7 years. Maybe the general public doesn't see those 6 to 7 years, but what I'd like to ask is why, despite that, the act being first passed, I think in 2015, has it seemingly taken an election year to bring this issue to the forefront? Like, why did it not come up sooner? You're up.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Well, again, it was a legislative, they had input there with the Department of Revenue, and it was a methodology to equitably devise and distribute sales tax in their mind efficiently and effectively to the community as a large. Some of the rural areas that do not have high commerce jurisdictions, they were kind of at a disadvantage when it came to school funding, when it came to municipal funding, police and fire and all that. This was a methodology by which they were to address that in a quick fashion. However, with that good intent and motive in place, it adversely impacted some of the areas like Trussville that has high commerce transactions. So we have to look at redressing that. How do we redress it? Beyond litigation or behind legislative redress, we got to start looking at ways to keep families in Trussville, keep families spending money in Trussville at all costs. We have to we have to attract businesses that families want to go to. I'm not saying we don't have those, but I'm saying we need more of those. We need a robust economy. And I said the other night, I got some pushback. Some people just go to 280 to spend money and to eat out with their families and all that. And we have a diverse amount of restaurants, which are great, but we actually need more and more areas to shop. We need we need to address those by recruiting, looking to recruit those types of businesses that people actually want to go spend time at, money at, and invite their family and friends from other areas to come in. And the entertainment district is phenomenal, but we can continue to build on that success and continue to draw people if we just put a little more work into it, a little effort into it.
A quick follow-up for you from that. And it actually came from our podcast that we did a few months ago. So I'm gonna read from it. You said on this podcast a few months ago that SSUT is a factor, but we must budget in Trussville based on knowing what SSUT has done and embrace these trends.
Absolutely.
You still feel that way?
Well,
where are you at in that?
Think about this. The county was not caught by surprise. The state was not caught by surprise. There were flattening sales tax forecasts that we all encountered, that all knew about. Some cities were positioned better than other cities to embrace the nuance of what was occurring transaction-wise. Some cities were not positioned well. So, and I'm not going to say it's mismanaged or anything like that, but just we have to do a better job strategically assessing our budgetary needs and separating that from our budgetary wants. And we have to be strategic in our acquisitions of land, and we have to be strategic in our divesting of those lands. And we don't need to tie up money unnecessarily, which cripples our budget, and it puts us in harm's way and allows the bond rates to increase and allows us to deplete our strategic reserves. We don't need to get in that position. And I'm not saying it's anyone's fault here. I'm just saying we need to avoid that with a different set of eyes, a different perspective on how we go about conducting the day-to-day business activities of the city of Trussville.
Okay. Ms. Bright, same question to you. Are there concrete ways to diversify Trussville's finances to not rely so much on sales tax? How do y'all convince people to not push that Amazon subscribe and save button? How do you do it?
I don't think that's going away. And that's all the more reason that the SSUT has got to be, it's got to be clarified and corrected. So as far as the first part of your question goes on how we do that and why we waited this late, SSUT really hit hard about 2 years ago. where you really started seeing a lot of groceries being bought online. We have Kroger trucks running up and down our streets, and there is zero brick and mortar here with Kroger. It's bad enough when it's Amazon. Of course, they got around that by building distribution centers. Before long, it's going to trickle down into the rural counties where you've got Dollar General, going to be the same thing. And they talk about dark stores. Walmart is already doing dark stores where they're becoming distribution centers and they're not in-person shopping, which immediately puts all those purchases into the SSUT. So how we fix it, either way is fine with me, but it's got to be fixed, whether it's through the lawsuit and has to go all the way to the Supreme Court, or whether the legislature chooses to sit down and work with cities, because if the state gets their 4%, I'll be happy to explain it. It's based on 8%. Trussville tax rate is 10. The state gets their 4. The county gets their almost 2. Joe Knight corrected me. It's not quite 2%. It's like 1.7 something. So they get their percentage, but then the last 2% is divided amongst all the municipalities based on population. So where you would get $4 from a $100 purchase, you're now getting about 4 cents. So the difference is just you can't make it up if that's where you're relying on your 62% of your revenue, and a lot of that is just going away because of SSUT. So I've sat down with Danny Garrett and had good conversations with him. It's going to be something that we're going to have to get two groups behind us. So the League of Municipalities and the Small Business Association. And that's going to take lobbying down in Montgomery if the legislature is going to fix it. The lawsuit that Walt Maddox has presented for the city of Tuscaloosa has promise. Will it work? There's not 100%. The best way, I think, is through the legislature, but you've got to get everybody on board. So all that to say, the reason why it's delayed is because it really didn't hit hard until the past couple of years. They started at Tuscaloosa, started looking at this back in 17, then COVID hit. So, that just ramped it up because everybody discovered, hey, I can just order everything online. And I'm just as guilty. When I come home and there's an Amazon package on my porch, I'm like, oh, God. We're at the school Institute today, and they gave out a Amazon card, and I'm like, no, you got to give out a shop local. But they did plenty of locals. I was just giving them grief. But those are habits that are not going to change. We all enjoy the luxury of shopping from our home on our laptops, from our phone, and it's not going to go away. So you can wish all you want that that's going to change, but it's not. So we've got to address it head on, and it's either through this lawsuit or the legislature or maybe a mixture of both. And we can help save communities like Trussville that are going to be hit so hard from that. But back to my original plan with economic development is we got to lower that reliance on that sales tax, and we've got to build up our businesses here. We got to recruit really, really good businesses like Irondale just got Costco. That is game changer, and it's a shame that we couldn't get it. We tried really hard to get that.
Where would it have gone?
That was the biggest problem is space. They require a good bit of, they require great interstate access. I've met with their representative down. We are members of EDAA, Economic Development Association of Alabama. Met with them. I mean, we tried. We need a recruiter. We need a recruiter that can go in and really recruit those type of businesses that are game changers for communities the size of Trussville. And hopefully that will come. That's in my plan as well, long-term plan. Short-term, got to change it up. We do have to try to focus on different revenue options for the city and a little less reliant on the sales tax revenues.
Okay. Ben, how about you?
Yeah, so I agree with a lot of what both of them said. They've covered this relatively in depth. I've been attending municipal summits down in Tuscaloosa for a while now. Just did our second one a few weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah. And so I think the uniting these largest 53 municipalities together is a step in the right direction. It applies the pressure that we need to put on our local legislature to make change. But we can't rely solely on that. So the judicial route is obviously another alternative. And as long as we're not spending unnecessary legal fees or funds on that, when Mayor Maddox is willing to take on that charge through the city of Tuscaloosa, happy to support that cause because it is important for municipalities across the state. And to Counselor, I think you might have both of you said it. When COVID happens, the federal government was infusing COVID dollars into the local economy. So that kind of skewed and delayed the overall impact of what we're seeing now, right? So now that all that money is out of the system, right, now we're really seeing that impact. And then you look at the evolution of Kroger, right? You look at, they are operating from a distribution center in 11 stores in South Alabama, okay? And they're covering the entire state of Alabama. And I see it on a constant cycle through my community. Yeah. My neighbors know who they are, and I know you shop via Kroger delivery, okay?
Kroger's never going to sponsor this podcast.
Kroger's not sponsoring this, but
sorry,
but
Gary.
you look at what is our largest revenue generator, and they'll both agree with this. It is groceries. Sure. Groceries are the biggest component of the sales tax we generate. But now you have these companies like Kroger moving to distribution-based models, and they're able to offset their overall infrastructure cost. Walmart's going dark because they don't have to staff as many employees and they don't have to build new facilities and update facilities, right? So we're going to continue to see that evolve. The national average of online sales is 16.2%, say all sales are online. That's the national average. It doesn't account for Trussville's median income, which goes back and forth between the third and fourth highest in the Birmingham metro market, right? To Mr. Smallwood's point, it doesn't account for our commercial base. Right, so when you see that people are now able to conveniently purchase groceries online or via Kroger delivery or whatever, or shipped or whatever the case may be, pay 2% less, which is another disadvantage for our brick and mortar, right? And so you see all that happening, and all those people would typically in these surrounding communities, they come to Trussville to shop. They don't have to do that anymore, and they can save 2%. So that's why it's of vital importance for municipalities across the state of Alabama. I talked about 53 of the largest being the primary impact now, but eventually this is going to impact rural Alabama. When Dollar Tree and Dollar General realize, hey, we don't have to open, I think Dollar General has like 800 something, maybe 900 something stores in the state of Alabama. I'll get you the exact number, but it's a crazy number, right? Yeah. And then Dollar Tree is a couple hundred, maybe 300. But when they realize, hey, I don't have to open all these stores, I can move to a distribution model, that is going to kill rural Alabama's economy. Because what is in rural Alabama? What is the primary store in rural Alabama? It's a Dollar General. Yeah. And so when they realize, hey, they can move to this model, it's going to impact rural Alabama. So now is the best time for us from a legislative standpoint. I hope that's the fix, to be honest. If we fix it there, we can save rural Alabama as well as fix the problem for our municipalities, the 53 that are being impacted the most right now today. So.
Any follow-up?
I have one thing. I think Alabama has got to have a conversation, a painful conversation at looking at undertaxed commodities in the state and take a move in that direction. One of our largest commodities in the state is timberland, but yet Alabama has one of the lowest taxation rate for timberland in the state of Alabama. And there's vast commercial holdings of land that just sits there. Some have mineral rights, some do not, but they're again taxed at these low amounts. And I think we're going to have to at some point in time address that. Either put those lands back into public use and build upon them, or explore taxation that is commensurable with what the value of that property is. You know, I know there's opposition to that in those industries, but let's look to Georgia, Tennessee, Florida, and how their timber crops are taxed. And let's think about that. Just start there and move on from there. And, I know that you think, well, how's that going to impact Trussville? We have to look at the full picture of Alabama as a whole, how we're related to the city, but how we relate to the state as a whole, and how their laws affect us as a municipality.
I'm going to quickly follow up to you too, because you said Georgia, and it made me rethink of something. So back to what we need the legislature to do, in my opinion, to fix SSUT, which I think was maybe one of your primary questions too. So as it currently stands, when you pay online sales tax, we covered, you pay 8%. You go to a local store today, you pay 10%. Right? We have to move. In the state of Tennessee, and this is what brought you said Georgia. So the state of Tennessee just fixed this last year. They moved to a delivery-based model. That way, you're paying whatever the tax rate is where that item is delivered, and that's what should be. It evens the playing field for our brick and mortar stores, and it fixes the problem for municipalities when we move to that model. And it's proven. Again, the state did a great thing when they invented this in 2015. They just didn't foresee this issue becoming what it is, right? And now we've compounded that to a certain extent. I think it's important for the public to know this too. So when you buy something in a brick and mortar store, you pay that 10%. The state keeps their 4 pennies, right? But the distribution of that, the majority goes into the education trust fund. For this example, I'll use 75% of it goes to the Education Trust Fund, and 25% go to the general fund of the state of Alabama. When you buy something online, it's the exact opposite, right? So the state of Alabama needed to create a way to create reoccurring revenue, and this was their fix to that. So when you buy something online, the state keeps their 4 pennies. They keep the same percent, so there's no harm there. But they put 1% or 1% of that 4 into the Education Trust Fund and put 3% in the general fund, which is why the state of Alabama has had some of the largest general funds they've had in history, which is why, to your earlier point, the county and the state are fine. But really, the people that are taking that burden are municipalities. So I just wanted to throw it out there.
I want to add one thing to that too. Also, our schools. So our schools are taking a large hit. As we say, 1 cent of our 4 cents, so 25% of our sales tax revenue goes straight to our schools. Well, if we're not bringing in that revenue going to our schools are very low as well. I believe Tuscaloosa County School System also joined in that lawsuit with Mayor Maddox in the city of Tuscaloosa. That's going to be key down the road, and there are a lot of superintendents that are looking into that because it's going to affect their school systems moving forward with funding, because it's not coming to them because a lot of it comes straight from that sales tax revenue. So that's something we need to be extremely mindful on. And I know that the legislature is looking at all of that. The destination sourcing is what they are calling it with this SSUT lawsuit, and that's key. Where it's delivered is where the sales tax, if it's 35173, that's the sales tax that we should be able to collect.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And to Lisa's earlier point, too, I mentioned this earlier to the school's point as well. Fixing SSUT fixes or gives us the ability to then go to the bond market and pay for, be able to afford one of those additional school projects that we so desperately need. Yeah.
One more thing. I'm a member of the AATA, the Alabama Association of Tax Administrators. I've been for 20-something years. And one of our issues is a lot of times a bill that impacts counties or cities or the state are being discussed or being passed without consulting us. A lot of times we will tell them, hey, you don't understand how this particular piece of legislation will impact this municipality. Sometimes it's done from constituents which are in the ear of legislators, gets in committee and gets passed, and they don't understand the full impact of how it really does affect the lives of school kids and cities and first responders. So we need to really, as a city, be a member of the League of Municipalities and have our voice down there, have a presence, have lobbying presence, and so our voice can be heard when these important events of legislation are being discussed before they get passed, not after, because once it gets passed, it's kind of hard to offset those things.
Right.